Okay, wow. I genuinely have no idea where to start after watching this episode. Literally, it finished 13 minutes ago. And I can't even process what has just happened in this episode. So these are going to be my literal initial just thoughts and feelings. There'll be a proper review once I've watched it again and actually thought about it properly. But this is just like, what am I thinking right now? Because genuinely, I cannot remember an episode where that much happened in one episode. And in a mid-series episode, not even a finale, but like episode 5. Like, this is just crazy. So obviously, okay, if you haven't seen this, click off right now. Don't look at the comments. Don't look at social media. Just go away, turn your internet off, or go and watch the episode right now if you haven't, because you need to watch this, because there's just no other thing you can do apart from watch this episode and find out what goes on. But let's get stuck into it. So we knew there was a big thing happening in this episode, and I think ultimately the big returning character actually wasn't really the big deal of this episode. Like, that was what was being built up, but then actually, yes, it was important, but actually there's a lot more that happened in this episode than just Captain Jack. I mean, okay, first, Captain Jack. This is crazy. I'm so hyped. Like, Captain Jack is back. His appearance was a bit bizarre in this episode, I'm not going to lie. Like, I love seeing him back. It's brilliant. But it was an odd scene where he was it felt like we were cutting from the main plot to him, and obviously bringing in each of the companions, and then him giving some mysterious line about the lone Cyberman from later in the series. It was an odd appearance. Like, I don't think it makes that much sense right now, but I feel pretty confident we're going to see him at least in the finale or somewhere later in the series, because it was I'd be amazed if they brought Captain Jack back and then didn't get him to meet the Doctor. Like, that just seems bizarre. So obviously, yes, it was brilliant. I loved the way they did it with hearing his voice at first, and I was trying to, like, I couldn't quite get it straight away. And as soon as he started talking properly, I was like, yep, I know who it is. It's Captain Jack, he's back. And then just seeing him, it was brilliant. Obviously, yes, he looks a bit older and all that, but he's still got the same outfit, and he was just being absolutely wacky and crazy, and the classic flirtatious Captain Jack that we all know and love, really. Obviously, he's mistaking Graham for the Doctor in the first place as well, and then finding out it's a woman. It was just all brilliant. I loved his scenes. As much as they were a bit bizarre and disconnected from the rest of the story, they were still fantastic and fun, and references galore. The nanogenes from his first episode, we brought those back and they were attacking him somehow before he disappeared. And then, yes, this ominous prophecy about beware the lone Cyberman, the Cyber Empire's been destroyed, don't give the Cyberman what they want, which was all quite bizarre and mysterious. And how does Captain Jack know about this, for starters? And what does it all mean? As I say, I'm sure he's going to come back later in the series, because it would be very bizarre if that's the only scene he gets, because it feels so kind of disconnected from everything else and a lot of this story ultimately. So yeah, it's bizarre that given before this episode, before this series, you think of the idea of Captain Jack coming back in episode, how could there be anything that topped that in terms of the excitement and the shock and the wow in one episode? But then we just had a new Doctor introduced, I think. Which just is the most bizarre and wacky thing. I mean, I'd read the rumours, which kind of suggested this thing possibly might happen, but I was not expecting it. Like, that seemed ridiculous. That seemed beyond believable. Like, Christian was not going to do this. Series 11 was the most safe thing we've ever seen. Like, it was never going to go bold like that. But then suddenly he's introduced this new Doctor, who was Ruth Clayton, used the chameleon arch. It felt like classic. It felt like New Who references galore from like the RTD era, with the Judoon in there, the nanogenes, the chameleon arch. It was just like crazy. And so she's been hiding her identity on Earth to sort of escape the Judoon, essentially, who have been hired by Gat, who's some Time Lord. Who's a Gallifreyan, sorry. I noticed it was very specific in this episode. When the Doctor, the Ruth Clayton Doctor, introduced herself, she said, I'm a time traveller. She did not say I'm a Time Lord at any point. And when the Doctor scanned this Gat, this commander character, she said she was a Gallifreyan, again, not a Time Lord. So I think this, which fits in with some of the rumours, is to do with the sort of before they became maybe proper Time Lords, and it's something to do with the very early foundations of Gallifrey as a society, which is what a lot of references, obviously the whole timeless child thing. It does feel like it maybe fits that this Ruth Clayton Doctor is actually what the timeless child becomes. But then we weren't expecting her to maybe call herself the Doctor before this point. So it's all really confusing. But I mean, I love the seeing this sort of first Doctor's kind of adjusted TARDIS, basically. I mean, given the look of it, it certainly implied it was before the first Doctor in the way it looked very much like just a jazzed up white TARDIS from the olden days. It looked really, really cool, but I think it sort of gave off that vibe a little bit more. And I straight away bought into her as the Doctor as well. Like when she put her coat on and sort of started doing it, although you were a little bit unsure because of the sort of seems to be holding weapons and killing people and causing somebody to shoot themselves, essentially. It showed that this sort of, again, I felt in a vibe of a very early Doctor, like we saw with William Hartnell, where some of his morals were a little bit questionable. So maybe that would make more sense, that this incarnation of the Doctor, or version of the Doctor or something, is set before then. Before William Hart's Doctor, which is certainly plays into the rumour that's been doing the rounds before, which I just didn't believe, frankly. But we've seen the Doctor scanned it and has seen that they both are the same time with the same two hearts. So like, it definitely is the Doctor. But that how does this even happen? Like, what? I'm just so confused, basically. Like, Christian and Vinay Patel, who wrote at least some of this episode. I don't know how much of this is written by Chris versus Vinay, but obviously some of the arc stuff, like early on with Gallifrey and her looking for the Master and everything, I'm sure that was written by Chris. But I don't know how much is written. Yeah, so I don't know about that. But like, we just feel like I've had such info dump and like excitement dump of just extreme, shocking, chaotic things happening during this episode that I can't quite believe. And I'm just lost for words. Like, we're only halfway through the series. We've got half a series left to recover all these plot strands that you feel like could almost have been a finale with a shock Doctor, like a part one of a finale with a shock secret Doctor appearing or something. Like, I just can't explain it, really. In terms of the other actual kind of story of this, the whole Judoon thingy, which was sort of what started the episode off. I mean, obviously Lee Clayton seemed like the shady one early on. And I guess, obviously, we've got to ultimately come to assume that he was another Gallifreyan, because it was implied that he did training with Commander Gat, who we find out is also a Gallifreyan. I'm being key here using the word Gallifreyan, because I'm initially not convinced that he's a Time Lord because he didn't regenerate when he got shot. Like, usually a Time Lord can get shot like that, but would regenerate. But then he didn't. But certainly the implication is that he's a Time Lord of some sort, unless he was locked in human form or something, I don't know. But then we hear about the Ruth Clayton Doctor, who is talking about from her future and implies she understands the concept of regeneration. So presumably that's been put in place by the time that this Doctor and Commander Gat is being put in place. And obviously we can see Commander Gat as well, just getting killed straight out by a gun, not regenerating, which, again, doesn't make that much sense unless it's like a Time Lord destroying gun that they were using, maybe, that they've got from Gallifrey. I was a little bit of a shame that we didn't see a shot of Gallifrey, at least at whatever time it is at the moment, from the Ruth Clayton Doctor's point of view and Gat's point of view. I'm intrigued by that, as to what does Gallifrey look like at the moment. Like, I'm sure we'll get to that later in the series, but I'm really intrigued to see that. I love that the Doctor did the little contact moment with Gat to try and get her to see that this is the shocking Destroy Gallifrey, just reintroducing something they used earlier in the series from the way back in the past. It's great to see. I love it. And I'm just so intrigued and excited to find out where this is going to go, because yes, I think realistically we are probably going to change some of the origins of the Doctor and Gallifrey and Time Lord Society and how everything began. I think that is going to change. Now, I think that is also going to cause this series to probably be the most divisive series ever by the end of it. At least the very initial reaction to this episode alone seemed to be very, very good, but whenever Doctor Who does major kind of changes of continuity and things like that, and changes major things about the programme, it gets a lot of different opinions, shall we say. Some people love it, some people hate it. Personally, I'm excited to see where it takes it. This is something quite important. I think that Chris has got to do it right, otherwise it could all be quite catastrophic. At the moment, I just feel very excited at the idea of having previous Doctors before the William Hartnell Doctor, for example, and how that all came together. I just don't understand it, really. So yeah, I'm really just completely blown away from that episode. Like, I thought it was a really good episode. I did think that the Ryan, Graham, and Yaz had nothing to do in this story, which has been a common problem with this episode of this series, but in many ways I can kind of forgive it in this particular episode because of the whole other things going on with a new Doctor and everything. Like, I'm happy for them to give that screen time rather than the companions in this situation like this. And it was nice to see them at the end as well, kind of coming around the Doctor, and when you could see that, like, when she just left the Ruth Clayton Doctor TARDIS, her face was just like she was completely overwhelmed with everything that's just happened, and like she looked like she wanted to like start crying, basically. I would want to in that situation, frankly. And yet her friends came round her and were like, "We're here for you. We're your fam. We're gonna help you. We're gonna be there with you no matter what." And they're obviously the very ominous "something's coming for me. Time is swirling around me with all this Master, this other Doctor, Time Lord, Captain Jack." Obviously, she referenced the fact that Captain Jack was significant, so I'm pretty certain that means that he's going to come back later in the series. But it certainly sounds like there's some major things going to be happening later on. I'm sure the Master will return. I'm sure Captain Jack will return. I'm sure the Ruth Clayton Doctor will return later in this series. I'm sure we'll go back to Gallifrey in this series. I'm sure that the Timeless Child will at least be somewhat addressed. How much? I don't know, but at least somewhat. And obviously we've got the Cyberman story to look forward to, the lone Cyberman that's presumably that's going to cause some major problems, it sounds like, given that it's a Captain Jack prophecy, essentially, suggests that it's going to be some quite major things. And in some ways I quite like it because in terms of him giving a prophecy is kind of like, well, the implication is that he becomes the face of Bo, obviously, back in the olden days, the new RTD era of New Who. And then the face of Bo gives this prophecy to the Doctor about you are not alone and everything. So I quite like that they used the lone Cyberman for Captain Jack in his slightly younger form to give to this Doctor to kind of as a prophecy again. So kind of reusing that idea I think was quite fun. And I feel like although there's kind of a few ideas that I used again with the whole comedian arch and stuff, and I was thinking that might be what it was going through the story when they're sort of like, oh, there's lots of shielding against you, maybe you're somebody else. I thought, okay, that might be where we're going, guys. But I thought that although there were quite a few of those kind of references, it didn't feel like it was just retreading old ground. It was just using things from the past in a really cool way to kind of create an exciting new future, basically, for the show, which is really exciting and interesting to see. I think the Judoon kind of like we're left to the side really, and we're kind of, although the episode is called Fugitive the Judoon, ultimately we're not really going to think about the Judoon again. They were cool. It was nice to see them again. They were pretty brutal and just went around shooting some people when they weren't sort of complying and stuff, which is quite cool to see that they are a proper space police that are just like sort of just trigger happy basically. But the fact that they were basically employed by whoever the Gallifreyans are is quite intriguing as well. That whoever the Doctor is, this Ruth Clayton Doctor, she's done some bad stuff that the Time Lords or the Gallifreyans want to capture her and want to get her and kill her essentially. I think was the implication from the Judoon is quite intriguing. So it's clearly, has she done something really bad? Has she changed something? I don't know. But it really poses a lot of questions. So yes, I'm going to leave it at that because I can waffle on for ages, but I feel like I'm just going to go around in circles otherwise. So I'll leave it at that for now. Obviously, you've got to tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. Like, this is one of those episodes that we've just got to talk about. So comment down below right now what you thought of the episode. I'll be doing my fan reaction video as usual. I'm sure I'm going to have so many comments to go through this week. Oh my gosh, it's going to be crazy. But yeah, please do post your comments down below, your theories of the rest of the series. Did you like it? Did you like the Ruth Clayton Doctor? Did you like the portrayal? Did you like the reveal? Did you like everything? Or did you hate it all and you think it's a disaster for the show? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments below. But I will have a proper full review hopefully tomorrow if all things go to plan, where I actually kind of a bit more calmly kind of think about it and work my way through the episode and give it a bit more in-depth analysis rather than just, wow, this is crazy. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Hit that subscribe button and the like button as always, and I'll see you again very soon for another one. Goodbye.